Well, it is a very warm and sunny day here outside of San Antonio, Texas, and I am in the much anticipated brand new third generation 2022 Toyota Tundra. Now, this vehicle, we have waited a long time for it. First generation Tundra came out in 1999, the second generation came out in 2006, and ever since then we've been waiting for the third generation. It's finally here. How does it stack up to an all-new breed of truck competition? Let's put it in drive, and let's talk about it. Let's start off with how it drives, and the answer is really nicely. There is a lot less road noise and a lot less engine noise than in the previous generation Toyota Tundra. That said, there is so much passing power in this truck. You have power to pass anytime, anywhere. Now, the Tundra comes with two different engine options. They're both based on a twin-turbo 3.5 liter V6. You can basically have it a la carte or with a hybrid system called iForce Max, which honestly sounds like a cut-rate superhero. Let's talk about the specs on these engines. Now, that V6 makes 389 horsepower at 5,200 RPM, which is 8 more than the previous year. There's also the iForce Max hybrid version, which essentially uses the same engine in addition to a hybrid system, which yields 437 horsepower at 5,200 RPM and 583 pound-feet of torque at 2,400 RPM. That is a lot of torque. You can also tell that Toyota has done some cheaty things when you step on it to make it sound kind of like a V8. They know that nobody really likes the sound of a V6, so I applaud them for trying on that, but it doesn't sound as good as the old one. The old V8 sounded really good, actually. So here's what this one sounds like. So it's way faster than the previous V8. It doesn't quite sound as good or as natural. And honestly, I wonder if the V6 is going to be a tough sell to pickup truck buyers. I mean, on paper, this is way better. It makes more power, way more torque. It still runs on regular gas. The previous generation Tundra was on all those lists of most likely to make it to 1,000,000 miles. And so you have to think that if they have the same approach towards quality and durability, these could also last a very, very long time. Will any twin-turbo vehicle go 1,000,000 miles? Well, that has yet to be seen, but I think it will be a pretty reliable unit going forward. Just my hunch. Now, the other big bugaboo in pickup trucks is visibility. Can you see out of this thing? The answer, well, yeah, you kind of can actually. It is a full-size truck, so your sight lines aren't as clean as they would be in something smaller. However, for a massive truck, it's pretty good. I like that I have humongous mirrors to the sides. I can see out and around this car very well. And because it is such a boxy design, even for a truck, I kind of know where my corners are. So that aspect of it is really nice. This interior is honestly a mixed bag. It's fully modern, whereas the previous generation from 2006 looked like it was from 2006. And I'm happy to say that very few things from that interior have obviously carried over. One of them is the gauge cluster. This looks a lot like the same gauge cluster they gave us in 2006, dressed up with some fancy new things around it. It's an analog cluster, and you will get an analog cluster no matter which trim you pick, unless you have the hybrid. Only the hybrid gets a full digital gauge cluster up front. If you're sticking with the twin-turbo V6 without a hybrid system, you get analog gauges. I don't mind how they look, but it is a bit more traditional, shall we say. So this truck that I'm driving right now is a limited trim. There's a whole ton of trims: SR, SR5, Limited, Platinum, 1794, and TRD Pro. I think I remembered all of them. Throughout those trims, there's a lot of different options and permutations that you can get. The important thing to know from an infotainment standpoint is that the big screen, there's two different screens you can have, an 8-inch screen or a 12.3-inch screen as we have right here. That big screen is optional on SR5 and standard on limited and higher trims. So basically, if you're getting the nicer trims, you get that big screen standard. If you get SR5s, you can opt for it. And if you're getting an SR, which is basically the base trim, you do not have that option. So, pretty logical, I think. Now, contained within this system is Toyota's all-new infotainment system, and I really like it. It's not tablet-inspired, which is kind of nice. It sounds a bit interesting to say, but it is more close to an Apple CarPlay system. By the way, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are standard on any trim level. Even the base SR gets wireless Apple CarPlay. You do not have to spend extra for it. And I think that's just a great thing. I can't say enough good about this system. The graphics are so clear and so crisp. It's such a quantum leap ahead of what it had before. I love that it uses every inch of the display thoughtfully and usefully. It's customizable. You can view it in light mode or dark mode. I know that a lot of us like the darker screens now. The layout's intuitive, and it has enhanced voice control over the previous generation systems. So I'm not gonna say it, but if you say, "Hey Toyota," it wakes up. No, it woke up. The system wakes up and it will do all kinds of things between, your usual car stuff. Play this artist, navigate me to this place. The party trick here is that it actually works. Another thing that you can do with the system that I like is that you can pair 2 different phones to it. So if you have a household where 2 of you share a car, do not have to remove someone's phone from the account, add a new one. It keeps 2 phone profiles saved in it so that you can just toggle between them very easy depending on who's driving the vehicle. And considering that a lot of these are in households where people will share a car, it's a really thoughtful feature. Now, the interior itself is much updated over the previous generation. Long gone are the woefully outdated plastics in here. Even in this pre-production model, everything I touch feels nice. It feels premium. I love the feeling of the steering wheel. I can tell that so much effort went into the tactile surfaces of this vehicle. Now, things that people liked about the second generation Tundra, like the immense interior room and the roll down rear window, are back. All trims have that power roll down rear window. I'm not gonna do it now, but that whole rear window rolls down, all trims, and the interior space inside remains absolutely cavernous. I don't have measurements to back this up, but it feels like the roomiest pickup truck on the market inside, just in terms of width, headroom, shoulder room. I feel like I have so much spread out room in this truck, it's kind of ridiculous. Also kind of ridiculous is the size of this massive center console. There is no bench seat offered on any trim level. It is always a console with a console shifter. Now, I want to get a little bit into configurations, but honestly, I'll try my best while I'm driving. It's confusing. So you have the double cab, the Crew Max. Now, the basic thing is that you can get an 8.5 or a 6.5 foot bed with the double cab, and you cannot get the double cab in the fancy trims. The fancy trims are Crew Max only. Now, the Crew Max can come with a 5.5 or a 6.5 foot bed. Previously, you could only get the monster cab with the short bed. They have changed that. You could now have an absolutely enormous vehicle if you wanted and have the monster cab, the Crew Max, with a full 6.5 foot bed. Towing capacity. Toyota says that in certain trims, the SR5 double cab 2-wheel drive specifically, this vehicle will tow 12,000 pounds. The hybrid version actually tows a little bit less. It's just a factor of it weighing more despite the fact that it has more power. Towing capacity is based on vehicle weight versus how much you can tow. I'm sure by now you have noticed the outside of this vehicle. To put it politely, it has a very large grille. Toyota used the words bold and in your face to quote at the press briefing this morning, and yeah, that's putting it nicely. It is a lot of grille up front. They've really put a lot of identity into that grille, and whichever trim you buy comes with a different grille up front. So you could basically spot one of the many trims of Toyota Tundra by what it looks like at the front. At a glance, how does this stack up to the Tundra's many competitors? Well, I wouldn't hesitate to say it has best-in-class infotainment. This is a game changer for infotainment in a full-size truck. This is exactly the size of screen, how it should look, this is how it should act. This is absolutely setting the standard for infotainment in this segment. I also think it has class-leading interior room. I love the stretch-out room in here. I would say that ride quality is about as good as all the others. I think the largest stumbling block that Toyota's going to have with this vehicle is convincing everyone that a twin-turbo V6 is the only engine you need in a full-size truck. There are still a lot of V8 traditionalists out there, and I'm not sure how well they're going to take the swap to a twin-turbo V6. But if you drive one, it is definitely a compelling entry in the full-size segment, and I think it is definitely one of the front runners. Toyota has definitely greatly improved an already successful recipe, and I am very excited to try one of these out on a longer-term test. For Driving.ca, I'm Clayton Seams, and for more first drives and pickup truck reviews, don't forget to follow us online on Driving.ca.